He wore the collar, preached forgiveness, spoke of grace, but behind the pulpit, he lived a double life. For over 30 years, Father John Joseph Geoghan preyed on the vulnerable, boys from broken homes, lonely, trusting, easy to bend. He gave them kindness, then shattered it. Not 10, not 50, but close to 150 survivors came forward, and still, at 68, Geoghan faced only 10 years. Not for all 150, but for one single crime, a 10-year-old boy at a swimming pool. He became the face of something far bigger, the dark star at the center of the Catholic Church abuse scandal, the man who cracked it open, but not the only one, not even close. The Boston Archdiocese long knew. They saw the complaints, read the letters, and chose silence. They moved him parish to parish, hiding the truth, protecting the institution. Some bought off with secret settlements, others silenced with fear. But when the secret files were unsealed, the cover-up collapsed. A local scandal exploded into a global catastrophe. Thousands of victims stepped forward. Some cases reached back to the 1940s. The church paid out hundreds of millions quietly, and in the end, more than 400 priests were removed. No prayer could save him, no redemption, no protection, not from the church and not from God. Geoghan's final judgment was less than 24 hours away. There he stood, behind the bars of his narrow cell. Final count. Every inmate at their door, 8 o'clock sharp every night. The J1 Block, Special Housing Unit, the most secure corner of Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center, Level 6 maximum security in Shirley, Massachusetts, 30 miles northwest of Boston. 64 single-man cells, tight, locked. That night, 26 of them occupied. A strange mix of men too vulnerable or too notorious for general population. Informants, high-profile offenders, killers, gang members, all stacked together in protective custody. It's pretty unusual, pretty strange to put people from such backgrounds together, a prison consultant told the New York Times. I can't think of a logical reason for it. But, ironically, Geoghan felt safer here, more at ease than he'd felt for quite some time. 6 months earlier, he'd still been at MCI Concord, a lower security prison where he spent over a year. There, he claimed he was harassed by fellow inmates, beaten, abused by guards, even found human waste smeared across his bed. Here in Shirley, it was different. The unit ran on strict routines, little contact between inmates, and despite the outlaws in neighboring cells, Geoghan felt shielded, safer for now. Soon after count, the lights dimmed, the block sank into the monotony of another night, and so did Geoghan, not knowing it would be his last. Lights on. The tier stirred under the harsh glow of fluorescent bulbs. Same routine, same monotony. At daybreak, 2 officers walked the line. First formal count of the day. Once again, one by one, every inmate stood at their door. 26 men, 26 faces. The morning unfolded in silence. Protective custody was designed that way, for calm, for control. In cell 2, John Geoghan followed routine. Breakfast slid through the slot. He ate alone, quiet, locked in. The rest of his hours he filled with scripture, with prayer, the same devotion he once preached outside these walls, hoping somehow that heaven would still have him. But across the tier, in cell 21, another man was moving to a different rhythm. He had returned only yesterday, after 2 weeks in solitary for violence on the block. Once Geoghan's neighbor, now watching from just across the way. For more than a month, he had been preparing. That very same hour, he sat, pulling and twisting for hours, stretching socks into a noose. Staff rotations studied, guards timed, waiting for the moment when only one officer would be left. The trap was almost set, and its target, John Geoghan. Lunch was delivered. Nothing unusual. The block stayed quiet. 2 officers oversaw the unit, one stationed at the desk, the other on rounds. The rhythm of a Saturday in J1. And then came the shift. Officer Kasperzak left the SHU to assist with the chow line on Level 1 South, a routine assignment, commonplace, especially on the weekends when staffing was thin. But now, only one officer remained to guard the entire block, and that single detail at 11:40 on the morning of August 23rd would change everything. Officer Lonergan opened the cell doors, standard procedure. Inmates stepped out to return their trays. Some drifted toward the officer's desk, signing up for gym time. One of the few breaks from the monotony. 22 hours locked in, 1 or 2 out, for air, showers, or legal visits. A rare but usual moment of movement inside J1. One by one, the men filed back. Doors slid shut. Locks clicked. 2 inmates remained on janitorial duty. What no one saw was the man who slipped through at the last second, following John Geoghan into cell 2. They had been neighbors once. He'd earned Geoghan's trust, so when the defrocked priest turned, he saw a familiar face. He felt no reason to be afraid. Not yet. At the officer's station, the only guard on the block didn't notice. Instead of conducting the hourly count, Officer Lonergan stepped into a back room to prepare his own lunch. Out of sight, out of earshot, leaving the unit unguarded. It was one of the janitors who noticed it first. Through the narrow window of cell 2, he saw something off. Geoghan wasn't talking. Another inmate was on top of him, twisting his hands together with a t-shirt. The attacker looked up, locked eyes with the janitor, and waved him off. Shaken, the inmate backed off and whispered to his colleague. Together, they hesitated, then moved to the officer's station. Only then did the guard's attention snap back to the block. A dull thumping echoed from cell 2. Both janitors were ordered back to their cells. Officer Lonergan tried to open the cell door electronically. It wouldn't budge. Not by accident, the attacker had come prepared. A pre-cut book jammed the upper slot. A toothbrush and nail clippers wedged into the lower track. The door was sealed shut. Lonergan rushed to the window. Inside, he saw Geoghan on the floor, hands bound with a t-shirt, neck gagged with a pillowcase. The attacker on top of him, pulled tight. A stretched sock twisted into a garrote. Lonergan grabbed his radio. Code 99, an emergency call for the response team. For 10 long minutes, officers stood powerless at the door. Through the glass, they watched the assault continue. The priest pinned to the floor, his body barely moving. At one point, the attacker even leapt from the bed, crashing down on Geoghan's ribs. Keys didn't work, tools failed, the jammed lock held. Only when the attacker himself cleared the obstruction did the door finally give way. He was dragged out, cuffed. "I just saved your kids from being raped," he boasted. His name, Joseph Lee Druce, a neo-Nazi fueled by hatred of immigrants and gays. Born Darren Ernest Smilage, he had changed his name to cut family ties and to hide from the enemies he'd made inside, enemies that kept him in the separation unit. The outrage came fast. How could someone like Geoghan be placed in the same block as a man like Druce, a convicted killer already serving life for the 1988 deadly attack of a gay bus driver? Investigators would later claim Druce snapped after hearing Geoghan brag, boasting to other inmates, giving advice on how to groom children, even talking about fleeing to South America after release to keep doing it. But psychiatrists painted a colder picture. Druce hadn't lost control. He saw Geoghan as a prize, an opportunity, an angry, remorseless man, a believer in Satan, obsessive, calculated, desperate to become a big shot behind bars. Inside the cell, chaos. The medical team raced in, cut away restraints, removed the ligatures. CPR began. A defibrillator jolted Geoghan's chest. Compressions pressed on. But the defrocked priest was already slipping away. Paramedics from MedStar Ambulance arrived. Advanced life support continued as Geoghan was wheeled out of the SHU and rushed to Leominster Hospital. In Trauma Room 1, doctors fought to revive him, but at 1:17 p.m., John Geoghan was pronounced dead. Cause of death: ligature strangulation, blunt chest trauma, 14 ribs broken, a punctured lung, his neck scarred deep with the imprint of the improvised garrote. For many of his victims, the news brought only fleeting satisfaction. At first, a sense of justice. Then, frustration. The end had come too fast, too easy. They had wanted him to live, to stand trial, to face the public, to answer for the decades of damage left behind. Instead, his secrets risked being buried with him. And so, the question lingers. Did God welcome his servant into the kingdom, or will he burn in hell forever? Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.